Hello all, and welcome to your second grammar lesson, which is all about semicolons and how to use them. An introduction, just in case you were unaware, this is what a semicolon looks like. It looks like a full stop sitting on top of a comma. That actually gives us a little bit of a clue as to how to use a semicolon. It is somewhere between a full stop and a comma. It's not quite as final and powerful as a full stop, but it's a bit more so than a comma. And we'll talk about what I mean by that as we move on. But firstly, let's address some of the punctuation rules. Well, really importantly, is that a semicolon goes in the middle of a sentence. Therefore, just like when you use a comma, it does not need to be followed by a capital letter. Okay, so semicolon, and after that, a lowercase letter is needed. And that is something that myself and Ms. Lobo will be checking for in your work. Okay, how to use a semicolon then. Semicolons have lots and lots of different uses, and we'll get to all of the different uses for them in time. Today, we're just going to focus on one. It's the most common one, and as you can see in that second sentence there, the most common use of a semicolon is to link two main clauses. Now, we've learned about clauses this year already. A reminder, a clause or a main clause is a sentence which makes sense all on its own. So when I read a main clause, it makes sense on its own. It contains an object, a subject, and a verb. And it just makes sense to me to read it without me having to add in any extra information or move any words around. Here is an example then. Here at the top, we have two main clauses. Joe was a great PE teacher. He taught me a lot. You can see that both of those two sentences, they make sense on their own. They're short, they're simple sentences, they're not complex, they're not difficult, they're not year 5 level. If our writing just contained lots of these simple sentences, that's not at the year 5 level. So what can we do about it? Well, what you can identify is that even though these are two main clauses, they are linked, aren't they? They're both about Joe, this great PE teacher. It's not one sentence and then something. It's not Joe was a great PE teacher. I really like spaghetti and meatballs. Those wouldn't be linked subordinate clauses, linked main clauses. These two are linked in some way. They are about the same thing or the same person or the same theme. Therefore, instead of saying Joe was a great PE teacher, full stop, he taught me a lot, full stop, we could have Joe was a great PE teacher, semicolon, he taught me a lot. And again, I want to draw your attention to the fact that after the semicolon, I have got rid of the capital H for he. I do not need a capital letter there. A semicolon does not need a capital letter after it. So you might be thinking, well, what's the point? What is the point then of these semicolons? If they just make the same information, is it just to show off? It's not just to show off, although of course it is good to show that you understand a wide range of punctuation. But there are three main reasons that we will use it. The first and most important one is clarity, to make your writing clear. Now, when we have points which are just on their own, like we did in the previous slide about Joe and him being a great PE teacher, when we're doing an exercise like this, it doesn't really matter if we have two sentences or a semicolon. However, when we are writing lots and lots and lots, and when we are writing paragraphs or pages, as we do in school sometimes, we need to make sure that our writing is really clear. And a way of making it really clear is to use semicolons instead of full stops or instead of commas, because commas can just make the sentence run on and on and on for too long, and the semicolons can help break up clauses and link clauses so it's easier and clearer for the reader to read. A second one is just for variety. It is always good to have as much variety in our writing as possible. If we wrote simple sentence, full stop, simple sentence, full stop, simple sentence, full stop. It doesn't give us as much scope to add description, to add emotion, to add imagination, and to add creativity into our writing. And the more complex punctuation we can use, such as semicolons, the more we'll be able to weave those things in while still making sure that our sentences and paragraphs make sense. So it's going to help us with that as well. The last reason is fluency. As writers, we need to always have our reader in mind. We don't just write for ourselves, we write with an intended audience, and we want to guide that audience through our story or through our piece of writing. In order to do that, we need to make sure that what it sounds like in our head is how the reader is going to read it, so they don't become confused and they take the right pauses and they have the right emphasis on things. And semicolons are really going to help us do that by providing this link between clauses, but still separating them more than just a comma would. So, here is your independent task. It contains 3 tasks. Please attempt to do all of them. Read through. The instructions are on there. And should you have any questions, of course, let myself or Miss Lobo know. Over to you.